Turning now to your health, with child mental health problems on the rise in the past few years, a growing number of states have adopted laws that let students take an excused absence if they feel anxious, depressed, or need a day to recharge. Joining us to discuss is Jess Weiner, cultural expert and host of the Smart Girls podcast. Jess, good morning. Welcome back. It's always great to have you on.
Good morning, Giselle. Great to be here with you.
Always great to have you. So American teens are facing unprecedented rates of depression, as you know, as well as suicide. Even before the pandemic, we saw signs of this increasing. Why is this happening?
Well, you know, Giselle, and it's a great conversation to have today because it's World Mental Health Day. And you're right, the focus for our kids' mental health has been really acute over the last couple of years, I think for a variety of factors. And I will say, I think this has been going on before the pandemic. I just think the pandemic has created a different focus for us on we lost a routine. There was a lot of grieving, not being in school. There's a, world health crisis. And so we can't underestimate for little developing minds and bodies how intense these last couple of years have been. But I also think with social media and all of the other things we've talked about together, even on your show, there are a lot of factors that create mental unwellness for our kids. And I think the big focus that we're having now is on what do parents, teachers, caregivers do to help unlock the conversation more with our kids? How do we give them the language they need to ask for the help that they may require?
Right. And we're seeing that a dozen states already have measures in place that allow kids to take off for mental health reasons. Senator Anthony Portantino, he introduced the bill that was signed into law here in California. How important is this recognition, validating mental health feelings?
It's so important, Giselle, because I think we're normalizing physical unwellness and mental unwellness as equal importance. And so when a kid has a tummy ache or a fever, we often give them the day off or we let them rest. Same needs to be said for anxiety, depression, or just sometimes big feelings. I think one of the things that I want to underscore here is that before we ever see a diagnosis like anxiety or depression, kids are trying to express some of these big unruly feelings they might have. The challenge is there's a knowledge gap for them on how to talk about it. And so by schools acknowledging that this exists and that needs to have the same kind of attention as you would a physical ailment, so important for normalizing mental health, because in order for us to help heal our kids, we again have to develop the language and the tools to talk to them about it.
And how big a deal was like sports stars like Simone, Biles, or Naomi, Osaka coming out and saying, I'm not going to perform, I don't care what the pressures are, I need to take care of me. Did that have a big impact?
It had a huge impact. And I have to say, in particular, it had a huge impact for girls of color who watched their sports icons really take a step back, because we know that mental wellness also disproportionately can affect brown and Black communities. And I feel like what we really saw with those sports champions coming forward is saying, I am not here for you to the fans only, but I am here for me, and that I have an awareness of what I need. And I think to model that for young kids was stupendous.
Yeah, it took the shame and the stigma away in a really public way. Very, very powerful. So you talk about communication. It's so critical. We only have about 30 seconds left, but what is the best way we can get our kids to open up so that we learn what's going on in those sweet little heads of theirs?
I know we have to give them the language, so it's okay for them to describe, I feel sad, I want to cry, my head is spinning, I can't control my thoughts. We need to give them specific language to express themselves. And then we want to empower them, Giselle, to do some things that can self-regulate. Take a walk, take 3 big breaths, get a drink of water, lay down for a second. These are tools we need to teach them to get in touch with their own bodies and minds. And lastly, if you need bigger support than that, there are free and low-cost resources with organizations like onoursleeves.org that have a ton of free materials for parents and caregivers.
Jess Weiner, you're amazing. Thank you. We'll be back.